In this video, we are going to examine Tiananmen and the Drum Tower with the use of historical photographs and maps. To fully understand both structures, we must first understand their significance and their function within Beijing. This is a Qing dynasty map of northern Beijing from the year 1900. Right at the heart of this map, surrounded by crimson-red walls, is the imperial city, where the Ming and Qing dynasty emperors resided and ruled. It is a secluded compound connected to the outside world by only 4 imperial gates, one for each cardinal point: south, east, west, and north. The northern gate is Tiananmen, the first structure that we will look at. Also visible on the map is the central axis that traverses the entire city from south to north. Built upon the central axis were many of Beijing's most important structures, which included Tiananmen and also the Drum Tower, the second structure that we will look at. Directly south of these two structures, also on the central axis, lies Jinshan Park. This map carries no record of the contents of the park, presumably because in 1900 it was still considered a prohibited area reserved for the emperor and his entourage. In reality, the park contains a man-made hill, from whose peak an unobstructed view of both Tiananmen and the Drum Tower was possible. In these early 20th century photographs, we can see the view that one would have seen at the time, with Tiananmen in the middle ground and the Drum Tower in the background. Now, let's examine Tiananmen up close. From its construction in 1420 until its demolishing in 1954, the design of Tiananmen remained unaltered. Previously called Northern Peace Gate, in 1652 it was renamed Tiananmen, meaning the Gate of Peace on Earth. The southern entrance to the imperial city, Tiananmen, is the corresponding Gate of Peaceful Heaven, meaning together the north and south gates signify peace on both earth and in heaven. The representation of these two realms in Chinese architecture is in accordance with the belief that the earth is square and the heaven is round, Tianyuan Di Feng. Hence the doors of Tiananmen are rectangular, whereas Tiananmen's doors are semicircular. During imperial times, the buildings that surrounded Tiananmen had a variety of uses, ranging from imperial grain stores to government administration offices. This meant that there was a select group of people who would pass through the gate's left and right doors daily. But, as with all structures positioned along the central axis of Beijing, Tiananmen has a central door reserved exclusively for the emperor. This would only be opened when the emperor left the imperial city to perform imperial duties to the north, and also for imperial funerals, such as for Emperor Guangxu's funeral procession in December 1908. Tiananmen is also notable for being the site of the Japanese assault on the imperial city during the Eight-Nation Alliance invasion of Beijing in 1900. The Japanese eventually defeated the defending Chinese forces in fierce combat, but little did they know that Emperor Guangxu and Empress Dowager Cixi had already fled the imperial city through Tiananmen earlier that very same day. 24 years later, the last Chinese emperor, Puyi, also fled through Tiananmen when forced out of the imperial city by the warlord Feng Yuxiang in the Beijing coup of 1924. With the collapse of the Qing dynasty in 1911 and the departing of the last emperor from Beijing in 1924, the original function of Tiananmen as an imperial gate ceased to be relevant. It survived for several more decades until finally being demolished in 1954 to make way for new wider roads. Now, let's examine the second structure, the Drum Tower, that was positioned 800 meters to Tiananmen's north. The Drum Tower was built concurrently with Tiananmen in 1420. For over 500 years, the beating of its drums forecast the time in Beijing. In traditional Chinese timekeeping, the day was divided into 12 parts of roughly 2 hours each, with the night comprising of 5 segments. The daily beating of the drum at 7 p.m. signaled dusk, and at 5 a.m. announced dawn, between which times there was a light curfew imposed on the city. The Drum Tower is a 2-story building, with its 25 drums positioned on the upper level. This was a view from the upper level facing south, with a clear view of Tiananmen, the Central Axis Road, and Jinshan Hill. Much damage was inflicted upon the Drum Tower during the Eight-Nation Alliance invasion of Beijing in 1900, with several visible scars remaining unrepaired for over a decade. In the 1910s, the area around the Drum Tower was modernized with electricity, and transport to and from the Drum Tower was transformed with the opening of a tram stop at its base in December 1924. After the 1924 Beijing coup, the Drum Tower adopted Western timekeeping methods and was renamed Ming Chilou, meaning the Tower of Clarifying Shame. Barely a year later, its name was again changed to Qizhenglou, the name of the original 13th century precursor to the Drum Tower. At the same time, the building was fitted with a sports center, a reading room, and an exhibit on the 1900 Eight-Nation Alliance invasion of Beijing. The Drum Tower also became a site of protest during the turbulent years of Republican China. University students congregated at the Drum Tower in 1936 to protest against Japanese colonialism in China. 1936 also saw the Drum Tower be repurposed as an education center, although this was closed the following year with Japanese occupation of Beijing. Thanks to repeated renovations, the drum tower still stands today, although unfortunately 24 of its original 25 drums have been lost. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and remember to check out my other videos in the series.